For anything worthwhile, and certainly there's no shortcuts in the pyramid to success. If you can honestly say that you made every effort to live up to these, there's no way that you can fail. But we fail oftentimes in living up to them. I won't say that I've lived up to them. I'll say I have tried.
Before a game, the thing that always impressed me, that took a lot of pressure off of me as a player, was that he never challenged us to win the game. He always challenged us to do the best that we could do. To walk into the locker room when the game was over, look in the mirror, and say to myself, Walt Hazzard, I did the best that I could do tonight.
You know, he didn't talk about winning, okay? We all want to win, but he talked about, you know, as long as you all do the best you can with what you got, I'm going to be happy about it, and you should be happy about it.
I played on teams under him that won 73 games in a row, and never once did he say, let's go out and win this one. I mean, he never made a big deal about it, and he always, you know, said before the game, you know, all I ask is that after the game, you can leave the floor with your heads up. When I look back on some of the things that happened under him, it is just simply awesome.
The winning was awesome. No one in any sport in American history ever achieved the victories John Wooden did. In his last 12 years at UCLA, his basketball teams won 10 national championships, compiled a 94% winning average, with winning streaks that seemed to go on forever. Wooden's Bruins dominated their opponents as no teams ever had. But what was most incredible was that John Wooden never challenged his players to win games. Instead, he urged them to set their sights elsewhere. Early in each season, Wooden would hold his traditional team meeting, handing out rules and regulations, game schedules, and one rather strange-looking flyer. On it was John Wooden's philosophy. He called it the Pyramid of Success, not a magical formula for scoring points. Rather, it was a roadmap to a special kind of motivation.
Well, long ago, I wasn't satisfied with what was generally considered to be success, which is the accumulation of material possessions or the attainment of a position of power or prestige. I don't think those things necessarily indicate success. They might. So after a lot of thinking, I came up with my own definition of success and choose to define it as peace of mind, which is a direct result of the self-satisfaction that comes from knowing that you made the effort to do the best of which you're capable. And certainly, if you apply the things that I have tried to bring out in this pyramid of success, you're going to have peace of mind.
Consciously at first, most of his players rejected the idea that peace of mind was more important than winning games. Inner peace never shows up in the box scores. Deep down, though, Wooden seemed to have tapped a powerful incentive. He knew that self-satisfaction was often a greater challenge than winning, especially for the intense competitor, the kind John Wooden himself had always been. John Wooden's ideas about success and competition both had their roots in the farmlands of southern Indiana, where he was born in 1910. His parents worked a small 64-acre plot near Centerton, and from about the time he could walk, Johnny worked alongside.
We grew up on a farm, and my father believed in performing your chores and was insistent upon that, but he also wanted time for play, in a sense, and he would try to see that his children had a time for that, too.
Wooden's early life was profoundly influenced by his father. An excellent farmer, Joshua Wooden nevertheless ran into debt during the 1924 recession. Though the farm was forced into foreclosure, Dad was anything but a failure in his son's eyes.
My father, when I graduated from a small grade school, gave me a creed of 7 points. The very first point in the creed was be true to yourself. And he emphasized the fact that if you do the things you know you should do, then you're true to yourself. And of course there were many of others. Make friendship, fine art, drink deeply from good books, and he wanted us to read the Bible some every day, and just do the best you can each day.
When Johnny was 14, Joshua found a laboring job and moved the family to nearby Martinsville. There, John divided his free time between basketball and a pretty Irish girl named Nellie Riley. Around Nellie, Johnny was just another bashful teenager. But on the basketball court, he was brash and brilliant. Because he was short, Wooden exploited his natural quickness. His weaving, hard-charging technique helped lead Martinsville High School to 3 state finals and 1 state championship. It also caught the eye of Purdue University's great coach, Piggy Lambert. So in 1928, Johnny Wooden entered Purdue.
Mr. Lambert was an unusual individual. A lot of people didn't understand him too well, nor did I for a long time. He did a lot of individual coaching, and he knew his players. I think that he was outstanding, and he was a man of very high principles, and I think that he was very influential.
Playing under Lambert, Wooden learned lessons that could have come straight from his father, a kind of be true to yourself in the athletic sense.
I didn't have any control over my size, my height. I'm not going to stretch out and get any taller, but I could be extremely well conditioned, and I think that his teaching somehow made me want to be better conditioned than any player that I'll ever participate against, and I worked hard for that.
The 5'10" scholar athlete seemed to excel in everything he attempted. Senior year, he was named All-American Guard for the 3rd straight time, College Player of the Year, and captained the Purdue Boilermakers to the national championship. Come graduation, John married his childhood sweetheart, Nell Riley, and he took his first coaching job at a Dayton, Kentucky high school. As a coach, he wanted to infuse his players with the same fire for excellence he himself had played with. But like his father, and like Lambert, Wooden wanted to teach ideas, not just skills. There were specific things he knew that made some athletes play better than others, and these he started organizing into what would be the shape of things to come for his future teams.
First time I saw it, I didn't pay any attention to it. And I think maybe my junior, senior year, I started to look at it a little bit more closely, but I still never really paid that much attention to it. And then somebody tried to tell me that he was a Mason. And I asked him about that. He said, no, he wasn't a Mason. That was just something that he had devised that he thought worked. I think I really paid the closest attention to it my last year, or maybe my first year or two in the pros, because I was getting into more adult situations, and I saw how it transcended basketball.
I know the very first day of practice, he passed out the Pyramid of Success to all the team and reviewed it, and always reminded us of those things as the year went on, as he had a lot of wisdom and a lot of vision in terms of understanding what it took to make a group of young men work together toward one goal. And he did it better than anyone has ever done it in the history of collegiate basketball.
John Wooden's pyramid of success grew out of his early years of teaching and coaching. First at Dayton High, then later at Indiana State, he began to build his philosophy on one idea, that the competitive spirit of his players should be directed less at the opponent and more inward, toward themselves.
I didn't want our players worrying about what the other fella is going to do. I wanted them to do what they're capable of doing. And I want them, as time went by, to do the best you can do. And if that's good enough, you will outscore someone. And if it isn't, they're going to outscore you, and that's exactly the way it should be.
It was almost ironic, but to Wooden it seemed more games were won when winning wasn't the objective. That wasn't the only paradox. While most coaches did everything they could to fire up their players before a game, Wooden did just the opposite. He wanted his players calm.
I like it like the old hound dog that we used to have on the farm. It would just lie there and just could hardly move, but you go get him to go hunting or something and he's right up, ready to go. That's the thing that I want. Have your action at the right time.
Calmness, self-control, poise. To Wooden, these ideas were more than abstractions. They were real qualities that built on each other until they added up to the most important thing. For more than a decade, with time out for service during World War II, John Wooden refined and rewrote his ideas on success. Then in 1948, a call came from the University of California at Los Angeles, a school with only 3 winning seasons in 21 years. UCLA desperately needed a basketball coach. They promised Wooden a chance to build an entire program and to put to work the philosophy he had just that year completed.
Industrious. There is no substitute for work. If you're looking for the shortcut or the easy way or the trick to get something done, in my opinion, you'll not be developing yourself.
We arrived at practice. We didn't fool around. You know, we started moving and we started running, and if we practiced for 2 hours and 15 minutes, we ran for 2 hours and 15 minutes. We didn't sit on the bench and talk to an alumni, and we worked hard. I guess he taught us, because we didn't have a great deal of talent on our team then, that we had to work hard to outdo these other guys, and it proved successful because we did win with inferior talent.
If the talent at UCLA wasn't that good, the coaching theories apparently were. From the bottom of the pyramid up, Wooden worked his first Bruin team on strict, simple fundamentals. UCLA had been picked to finish last in the Pacific Coast Conference. Instead, they won 22 games and the division championship. The following year, Wooden's hustling, blitzing crew of no-names not only won the conference title, they went all the way to the NCAA regionals. Throughout the 50s, Bruin teams continued to win, with little going for them but the simple qualities their coach was teaching.
He didn't believe in rah-rah talks and high emotions, and I think he believed that he was a teacher during the week, and if he prepared his team well during the week, that would take care of the game on the weekend. He was a taskmaster and worked his players extremely hard, emphasized team play, playing together, good conditioning, all the things that are in the heart of the pyramid. And on the weekend, went out and played.
Acted with initiative, without thought at all of failure. It's the person that does nothing, in a sense, that aren't feeling, and yet in another sense they're feeling worst of all because they're not going to get anything done.
In 1962, Wooden's players began to mesh as no previous teams had. That year and the next, UCLA rolled into the NCAA tournament, hot to play and fighting to win. That they lost both times didn't bother their coach. Hazard, Slaughter, Erickson, Goodrich, and the others, they had all given their best, and they were getting even better.
He assumed that every athlete knew nothing about executing the fundamentals of the game. And he made sure that you went through the paces on a daily basis so that it became a part of your behavior on the basketball court. I saw those plays so many times every day over the course of the year that it became a part of my nature to make the right decision.
I think the real secret is the word team. We were some individuals who had individual strengths and talents. We had had some weaknesses, and Coach had helped us work on those and to fortify our strengths. But we knew that our strength, our overall success, relied on us playing our various roles and therefore being a team. because we didn't necessarily have a dominating player. We didn't have a Jabbar. We didn't have a Walton. We just had 5 guys who luckily came together and blended well.
We were prepared better than anybody in the world. We were in better shape than anybody in the world. We knew when we went on the basketball court that the other team was going to get tired before we did.
There were times that after the first 4 or 5 minutes of a game, the opposing team would ask us to slow down because their tongues would be hanging out. I said nothing to them. I just continued carrying it right to them.
The heart of John Wooden's pyramid of success became the heart of the 1964 Bruin team. With an average height of just 6 feet 3 inches, about all they had was condition, skill, and teamwork. But with these, Wooden molded a galloping fast break offense. Machine gun passing from Walt Hazzard, dead-eye shooting from Gail Goodrich. Opening day, the Bruins romped over Brigham Young by 42 points, and John Wooden knew that this team would realize its full potential. 30 games and 30 victories later, UCLA took home its first national title. The following year, the Bruins again charged into the finals of the NCAA. Against Cassie Russell and a huge Michigan team, little Gail Goodrich broke the UCLA record, 42 points. The Davids slew Goliath and became only the 5th team to win back-to-back national championships.
We were very confident. I think we picked a lot up from Coach Wooden himself. He wanted us to be calm and aware of what we could do and what we couldn't do, and keep it simple.
He gave us the confidence because he'd given us the system and taught us what we could do. The rest of the confidence came from the realization that we had the talent to implement that and make it work.
1966-67. Lucius Allen's speed, Mike Warren's playmaking, and Lou Alcindor's stuffed shots had college basketball in an uproar. None of the nation's powerhouse teams could even come close. 30 wins in 30 games brought a 3rd blue and gold banner back to Westwood. The following year opened with 13 victories, running the Bruins' 2-year total to 47 straight. Then came the night of January 20th, 1968, in the Houston Astrodome. Number 1, UCLA, faced the number 2 Houston Cougars before the largest live and TV audience ever to witness a college basketball game. The Astrodome thundered with a roar of 55,000 Cougar fans and the slashing, board-pounding point-for-point play of 2 phenomenal teams. With the game tied going into the last few seconds, UCLA fouled Cougar star Elvin Hayes. The Big E brought the greatest matchup in college basketball history to a finish. Everyone expected the Bruins to be stunned. Everyone except those who knew John Wooden.
We didn't lose, we were outscored. No, I don't think it had a devastating effect on us at all. As a matter of fact, I think more than anything else, it was good for us. And it made us realize that things aren't always going to go your way. And we had some little problems, but I had no doubt that if we met them again, which we did later, of course, that we'd have, other things being equal, we'll have no trouble with Houston. So I think it was a great game. I think it was good for basketball, but it had no I think it devastated our fans more than my team.
Success isn't winning. Losing isn't failure. Wooden brought the Bruins back to Los Angeles, told them to forget Houston. And they did just that for 13 games. And in March, they again swept into the NCAA Final Four. Waiting for them was the now number 1 ranked Houston Cougars. In perhaps the most brilliant display of shooting and speed ever put on by a John Wooden team, the Bruins methodically demolished their opponent. Revenge? Wooden preferred to call it incentive. All he asked was that his players do their best, and they did precisely that. The following night, they waltzed to a 23-point victory over North Carolina and on to their 4th NCAA title in 5 years.
When you're yourself, you're going to function near your level of competency. You're not acting. You're not trying to be something you're not. By being industrious, enthusiastic, by being friendly and cooperative and loyal, by maintaining self-control, by being alert and alive and not getting lost in your own narrow, selfish ways, by having initiative and not being afraid to act when action is required, by being intent and persistent and determined and to reach the realistic goals, by being conditioned for what you're doing, by being skilled, by having the techniques, and by being imbued with consideration for others, then, in my opinion, you're going to have poise and you'll have confidence, and it will be valid, it will be real.
Well, I think that that John taught kids how to make the most out of the abilities that they had. I think the kids played to their strengths, stayed away from their weaknesses, which I think is the most important thing that any player can do. I think the players were tough-minded. I think there was a great arrogance about them, and I say that in the best context of the phrase. I think that an inner arrogance is necessary for athletes to be successful, and I think they knew that they were good, and I think they knew that they were good if they did what they were supposed to do, and for the most part they did exactly that.
I think the thing was his ability to get the most out of his talent and to get it harnessed and from good habits, that during a game situation you would do the right thing instinctively rather than having to think about it. Like I said, by the time I was there, we didn't question his philosophies much because we saw all the banners hanging from the ceilings, you know.
The players who came to play for Wooden in his last years of coaching were among the best in the world. They chose UCLA because of the winning, the mystique, the acclaim. But they also knew Wooden would draw from them the best that they could give. And for great competitors, that was everything.
Some fellow once said, "Who can ask more of a man than giving all within his span? Giving all, it seems to me, is not so far from victory."
If his players gave all to their team, John Wooden gave his all to them. His competitiveness and his pyramid of success left a lasting impression on virtually all of his young men.
I'm proud of the fact that they have left UCLA when they graduated and have gone on with their life, doing well in whatever they're doing. I've got 20 of my ex-players practicing law in Southern California. There's 2 ministers, there's engineers, there's dentists, there's doctors, there's teachers, there's most of them are in business of one sort or another, and it gives a great satisfaction, and it makes me appreciate the words of the teacher who one time was asked why she taught, and she thought a while and she said, "You ask me why I teach, where could I find such splendid company?"
I finished and I graduated. Like, there's very few guys that didn't graduate from that played for Coach, because that was very important to him. And we didn't realize how important it was to us until later.
It gave me a level of confidence in myself and confidence in hard work, such that when I ran into the many challenges of law school, and there were a lot of challenges, I had enough confidence, enough of the right qualities or virtues that I'd learned from sports and sport participation at UCLA that it helped me. Studies, if you will, became my next arena of competition.
His ideas for living related directly to his ideas about basketball and vice versa. You do the best you can with what you have, and if you can do that, you have nothing to be ashamed of, and you have every reason to have peace and contentment.
That's in your profession, that's in your home, that's in your community, that's in your general life you lead. And if you do that, you're successful. Now, you might not be in the eyes of other people, but there again we get back to reputation and character. I'm far more concerned with what I am than what other people think I am.
Today, retired and in his 70s, John Wooden still believes that success is defined not by victories or money or power, This legendary winner, who downplayed winning, contends that success is measured in living up to one's potential. Perhaps of all his achievements, John Wooden's greatest victory has been getting that simple idea across to hundreds of young men, many of whom look back today and remember the coach who taught them where to find the best in themselves.
I would talk to them about the pyramid once a year and invite them to come in and talk to me about any aspect of it that they so desired. And very few would come in, but very few have failed to come in and talk to me about it some years after they have graduated, and that always pleased me.